25 minutes after 8 o'clock, we throw a little music down the pipeline to the senator because he can't be having any fun. I'll tell you that right now. It's been just the campaigning he loves. But the other nonsense with 1070 and what's going on, and probably, if Razor, everywhere you go, people say, you're from Arizona, the racist place. Imagine the nonsense somebody like Senator McCain has to deal with. Senator, welcome back on the show, sir.
Thanks, Jim. It's great to be back with you. And as you mentioned, it's very interesting times here. And all of us are waiting for the judge's decision, which many predict will come down today. And meanwhile, the spending here in our nation's capital continues unabated.
Oh, it sure does. Now, Senator, why is it always the day before every decision in our history? It's never 2 days before, 3 days before. It's just always drama. I don't understand.
I don't either, my friend. A lot of people expected it last night, or yesterday afternoon. But anyway, it's going to be very interesting because, I really believe that this issue is something that was bred out of frustration over the federal government to carry out its responsibilities. So therefore, the federal government is suing Arizona. And I wonder when they're going to sue Chicago and San Francisco and all of those cities that have declared themselves sanctuary cities and absolutely blatantly refused to carry out federal law. So
well, Senator, I still think it's the biggest political blunder I've ever seen in my lifetime. If you're in that position and we have a coffee 5 years from now, let's look back on it, because I think this was Obama's biggest mistake so far, politically, not real things he does in office.
70-80% of the American people want the border secured, and they realize that this illegal immigration issue is now turned into a national security issue. I'm sure you saw last week a car bomb went off in Juarez, Mexico, across from El Paso. I'm sure you've talked about these people who've been beheaded. It smacks more and more of the kind of challenge, certainly some of the practices that characterize jihadists in the Middle East. And instead, it's just unspeakably cruel, heartless drug cartels who will do anything to get their product across the border and kill anybody who stands in their way.
Senator, one of these places is about less than half a mile from my house in Red Rock, near Red Rock. And one of the listeners pointed out to me exactly where it is, and literally a few blocks away, walking distance. And everyone knows, Sheriff Babu talks about it with you all the time and all that. I still don't know why we don't stop the world and send every available person there to stop this. The drug part, Senator. Forget the good families and all that for now. Just the drug part.
Well, that's what, John Kyles and my 10-point plan calls for. But the fact is, as you mentioned, that human smugglers and drug smugglers are now practically one. They are working together. The drug smugglers have control parts of Mexico. Unfortunately, they're in an existential struggle with the Mexican government. And unfortunately, the Sinaloa cartel across our southern border, headed by Chapo Guzman, is probably the most, there's a paramilitary group called Zetas, but aside from that, the barbarism is what is chilling about all this. And the fact is that it is a national security issue when the police chief of Nogales, Arizona, is threatened with the murder of his policemen if they impede the drug traffickers. I mean, just enough, every day the evidence mounts that this is a national security issue, including a border issue, an immigration issue and all that. It's a national security issue.
Well, Senator, people give you grief for the time you spent in office. The good part of that is you have perspective. I mean, you can look back and really see how the earth and how America has changed. You've probably been interviewed a million times by guys like Doug Limerick and Bob Schieffer and all these different guys, and you know Barack Obama fairly well. So I'm going to ask you flat out. I've seen the president make the ice cream cone comment. We all have.
A reprehensible comment.
Right.
Reprehensible comment.
Bob Schieffer said people are going to be pulled over and checked. Now, I used to respect people like this. I heard ABC this morning. The Arizona law allows people to be stopped if they look like they're... Now, I have to say, first, my opinion, they're all lying because they're not that stupid. Now, I'd like to ask your opinion.
Well, rather than calling them liars, they are willfully ignoring the facts. and you and I know the facts are that there has to be reasonable suspicion to stop anyone, and once they're stopped, there has to be reasonable suspicion for them to be interrogated as to their immigration status. And federal law says that anyone who's in this country legally who is not a citizen is required to carry identification with them. So it's willful ignorance. That's why the Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security both testified. The Secretary of Homeland Security, when I asked her, have you read the law? No. Have you read the law? They condemn it without reading it. What kind of responsible and respectable government is staffed with people who would condemn legislation without having read it?
Well, and that's politics, but when I see the guys that are high up, old school journalists doing it, that really shakes me up. I've seen rookies, I've seen people looking for ratings do it. I've never seen trusted veteran journalists do it. I really hope it's not producers who don't know what they're writing. But this is very poor for the reputation of Arizona and the economy. Now, how is our economy going to get better or worse if 1070 goes in, Senator?
I think that if it's upheld, that over time our economy will be directly related to the rest of the country's economy, and not over whether 1070 is law or not. What is going to affect our economy is whether we stop this spending spree, this outrageous mortgaging of our children and grandchildren's futures, which will affect the economy of the entire country. And our state, of course, is hardest hit because we were at the crest of the housing wave and therefore had further to crash. But I also have talked to a lot of people who come up to me and say, I appreciate what you in Arizona did, and I'm making plans to come to Arizona for my vacation. So, and yes, we are hit by businesses and companies and corporations who are notoriously cowardly when it comes to the face of opposition. And by the way, again, it's despicable for any Arizona representative or someone who purports themselves to be a representative of Arizona to advocate a boycott. That's disgraceful. It hurts our citizens, including the 30% of our population which is Hispanic, which they purport to be supporting. It's disgraceful, and people should know their names.
Oh, absolutely. And Senator, you and Senator Kyle, about all I have at a shot at getting some truth in life. I'm going to be blunt about it because you guys have been in for a long time. I have a relationship with both of you, so I have to ask tougher or trickier questions like this one. Now, when we saw WikiLeaks, everyone here in this military town is upset over that. But before you answer, I want to say, though, how do we reconcile the fact that we do still need this information, though? I'll give you an example if you want to believe Drudge or any of this stuff, but Bin Laden being spotted in 2006, our CIA knew who he was, that kind of thing. If it's true, I know we have to do a certain amount of clandestine stuff to make this country work, but I don't want to see anything leaked out, but I don't want to see that we're being run in a way that American citizens are not aware of either. So what do we do?
Well, I think we, first of all, screen carefully the information that we have and what the American people need to know. In testimony yesterday, General Mattis, Marine General, who is becoming Petraeus' successor at Central Command since General Petraeus went to command in Afghanistan, said it was nothing that was new information. But the fact is, the London Times reports today, and I'm looking into it carefully, that the names of Afghans who have been informants and who have been cooperating with us are in many of these leaked Wikipedia info, and that puts their lives in danger. And I'm looking at this very carefully because it's a part of it that I hadn't thought of yesterday when the story first broke. And so if this WikiLeaks is revealing names of informants and people who are cooperating with us, that is really a very, very serious thing. And why should American newspapers be willing accomplishments? And WikiLeaks. I want to, not Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a very legitimate organization.
Usually, usually.
This is WikiLeaks, okay? And by the way, their agenda is for us to lose in Afghanistan. That's their agenda. So now American newspapers and newspapers around the world are willing accomplices to that effort. But all I can also, this brings up one larger issue, Jim, real quickly, and that is security of cyberspace, of the internet, of the web. If a private first class has access to all that, we always regarded secret information as on a, quote, need-to-know basis. In other words, only those people who had a need to know would have access to it.
And it was a printed copy then. You had a piece of paper then, right?
Exactly. So we're going to have to really, this brings up the larger question of access to classified information. Somebody had total access, which had no need to have access, much less the kind of person we don't want to have access to it. So this is going to bring up a very interesting issue. And, of course, then the larger issue is cyber war, as you know, which is a new battleground probably of the future.
Well, and there's controversies over the drones that are being used. Some say they're more humane. Some say they're not. We're going to have to make so many ethical decisions, Senator, and folks like, you guys who are in there, and we'll see what happens in November, but we have to make those kinds of decisions. All right, I get one question that I consider to be out of the blue per day with you guys from now on, because I got to get answers. When someone calls me, Senator, and says, every candidate for president in the last X amount of years were all members of Council on Foreign Relations. Something like that.
I'm not.
I mean, what isn't that an odd coincidence if it's true?
Well, it's not true in my case, but...
you've never been a member?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I didn't know that. I mean, these are things that I hope you understand. I've been a journalist my whole life. I need to find some answers, because otherwise the whole country's going to be going along their days believing stuff that's not true.
Yeah, well, we got a website, johnmccain.com, and if they have any questions, that please come up and give us the question you have, and we'll respond immediately. That's what we're here for. And but there is a lot of concern out there. There's a lot of suspicion. There's a lot of it justified. I mean, the total disconnect between Washington and the American people has never been wider. So that leads to conclusions that may not always be right, but some conclusions that are right. If you'd have told me 5 years ago that we would have a $1.4 trillion debt this year, I'd have said you were smoking something that they're sort of legalizing in California.
That the president allegedly has admitted to. So I have a listener trying to ask you a question. If you get cut off, Senator, I apologize ahead of time, but we're going to try to do it. CW, are you there?
Yes, I am.
The senator can hear you, sir.
How are you?
Senator, it's wonderful you're on the air. I first want to say that I've sat many times with Senator Goldwater privately in his family room up there on the hill in Paradise Valley. So I've been around a long time.
He continues to inspire all of us.
I'd love to talk to you about the F-35 at Luke, but I want to go more mundane.
It's got to be quick, CW.
I love your country around Cottonwood and Cornville, and we love it south of Tucson here, and I'm going to shift and go quickly to the Rosemont mine. This is a big deal for us down here. We got Morenci, it's expanding. We got.
All right, I got to give the senator about 10 seconds to answer you, CW, because we're hitting the top of the hour. Go ahead, Senator.
We have to do all the studies, environmental impact statements, take in consideration of local authorities and the community people before we make a decision on it, so that we have to be fully informed, in my view.
Senator, we'll see you in just a couple of days.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being on the show. We're hitting the top of the hour. I appreciate it very much. Senator and CW and everybody who jumped in there, hitting the hard break, as they say, so I can't really go any further. Next time I'll give you a little more notice, and we'll let them ask some more questions. Listening to the Jim Parisi Show on AM 1030, KVOI The Voice. We'll be back.